The Beverly Hillbillies Chronicles. Come and listen to my story about a man named Jed, a poor mountaineer, who barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground come a bubbling crude. Oil, that is. Black gold. Texas tea. Well, the first thing you know, oh, Jed is a millionaire. The kinfolk said, Jed, move away from there. Said, California is the place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is. Swimming pools. Movie stars. The Beverly Hillbilly. The morning sun had not yet risen over the grand mansion in Beverly Hills, but inside the house, the daily routine of the country folks was already in full swing. Granny was standing in the middle of the room, tapping her foot impatiently while shouting at the top of her lungs, asking what all the racket was about. She declared that it was time to go to work, calling everyone lazy bones. Jethro, rubbing his sleepy eyes and yawning deeply, complained that it was only 5 o'clock in the morning. Granny, however, would not hear any excuses, telling him that it was better late than never. Jethro tried to explain that he was a big city boy now and that nothing could get him out of bed at this hour. But the moment Granny offered him some delicious breakfast, Jethro changed his mind instantly, stating that he was completely ready. Granny smiled and remarked that for a city boy, he sure could move pretty good when food was involved. She then informed him that Uncle Jed was already sitting at the table, waiting for the rest of the family. Jed greeted them warmly as Annie Mae walked into the room. Granny noticed her appearance and acknowledged that she was up, while Annie Mae admitted that she sure was sleepy. Granny scolded the young ones, telling them that they would not have this trouble if they went to bed at a decent hour. Ellie Mae, defending herself, mentioned that she went to bed at 9 o'clock the previous evening. Granny pointed out that they were all there now, so Jethro needed to take his rooster and put him outside before having some breakfast. After that, they would all go down and get the Clampett enterprises ready for business. Jethro, feeling skeptical, reminded Granny that the bank building would not even be open yet, as folks in Beverly Hills simply do not get up this early in the morning. Granny was surprised to hear that they do not get up early, but before she could argue, a sudden knock on the door interrupted them. She asked Jethro if he knew who that was at the door, and Jethro asked who it could be. Granny revealed that it was Mr. Drysdale, who was riding into town with them. Jethro was shocked that he was there at 5 o'clock in the morning, but Granny explained that Mr. Drysdale did not stay up half the night like Jethro did. She praised the banker, saying he knows this is the best part of the day, and reminded everyone that it is the early bird that catches the worm, so he was up and ready to go, looking bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Mr. Drysdale entered the room looking completely dazed, wondering where he was and what had happened. He looked at Granny and reminded her that she was the one who called him, asking what the trouble was. Granny assured him that there was no trouble at all. They just needed him to open up the bank building so they could all go to work. She looked out the window, noting that it was 5 o'clock, the stars were still out, and the moon was shining brightly. She mentioned how good it makes a person feel, quoting an old saying that staying up at 5 ensures you thrive, but waiting till 6 puts you in a fix. She then wondered what kind of a day it was going to be, and after looking out, she muttered that it looked rotten, so she best go check the weather signs. Jed looked at the banker and exclaimed, "Well, doggy," expressing his admiration for Mr. Drysdale, stating that he was the first city fella he had ever seen with enough gumption to get going before sunup. Mr. Drysdale, trying to play along, repeated Granny's words, saying that he always believes being up at 5 ensures you thrive, while waiting till 6 puts you in a fix. Jed was impressed and told Mr. Drysdale that they were kindred spirits. However, Granny returned and corrected them, saying that Mr. Drysdale was wrong and that it was actually going to be a fine day. Jed smiled and asked the banker if he had already had his breakfast. Granny intervened, telling Jed that he should know the man had already eaten, as this man keeps proper country hours. She then offered him some coffee, which Mr. Drysdale gladly accepted, saying he would love it. Jed looked closer at him and pointed out that he still had on his night clothes. Mr. Drysdale, realizing his mistake, explained that he simply did not want to turn on the lights and wake up his wife. Jed, misinterpreting the situation in his country way, chuckled and remarked that he reckoned Mr. Drysdale beat her up regularly in the mornings. Mr. Drysdale, slightly confused, answered no, but agreed that it was a great idea, realizing Jed meant getting up ahead of her. He then suggested they go have that coffee, and Jed invited him to go right ahead, promising they would be right with him. Down at the bank, Miss Jane Hathaway was sitting at her desk when Mr. Drysdale walked in. She called his name twice in disbelief, asking what he was doing there at this hour since it was only 8:30. Mr. Drysdale, looking exhausted, replied that he had been there since 5:30. Miss Jane asked how come he arrived so early, and he explained that he had to open up the building so the Clampetts could go to work at 5:30. Miss Jane was astonished, and Mr. Drysdale added that from now on, they wanted to open up at 5 o'clock every single day. Miss Jane then noticed his attire and pointed out that he was wearing pajamas. Mr. Drysdale admitted that he was so sleepy he forgot to change, but luckily he had a suit in his office. Miss Jane pleaded with him to put it on immediately, asking if he realized what someone would think if they walked in and saw him like that. Mr. Drysdale asked what they would think, and Miss Jane explained that they might think he hired her for reasons other than her secretarial authority. Mr. Drysdale, with a wry smile, admitted that as a matter of fact, he did hire her for other reasons, specifically because she worked cheap. Miss Jane felt a bit insulted, noting that he was living dangerously for a minute, and told him that just for that, she had helped the Clampetts stay on the 5th floor for a whole year. Mr. Drysdale complained that they get him up at 5 every morning, so he was determined to get rid of them today by bringing in a hired gun. Miss Jane was surprised, but Mr. Drysdale clarified that the man was just a troubleshooter, but he was the absolute best at what he did, describing him as cunning, cruel, ruthless, unprincipled, and conniving, concluding that he was a truly beautiful man whose name was Homer Bedloe. Right on cue, Homer Bedloe walked into the office, wishing them a good morning. Miss Jane returned the greeting and addressed him by his name. Mr. Bedloe was surprised, asking how she knew his name, and Miss Jane replied that he fit Mr. Drysdale's description perfectly. Mr. Drysdale invited him to sit down, and Miss Jane asked if he and Mr. Drysdale were friends. Mr. Bedloe coldly stated that he does not have any friends, adding that he hoped Mr. Drysdale would find his work pleasing. He expressed his desire to give up his job on the railroad and stay on at the bank, noting that a bank offers wonderful opportunities. Mr. Drysdale agreed, and Mr. Bedloe continued, saying that you get to foreclose on mortgages, repossess cars, and take away furniture. He added that he bet it was a great kick to go and get a television set just when the kids are watching their favorite show. Miss Jane, watching him look around suspiciously, asked what he was looking for. Mr. Bedloe replied that he was looking for snipers and booby traps, explaining that it was a force of habit because he did not get to be this old and mean by being careless. Mr. Bedloe then looked at the banker and confirmed his identity as Milburn Drysdale. Mr. Drysdale affirmed it, and Mr. Bedloe said he would have known him anywhere because he was the spitting image of his father. Mr. Drysdale asked if he knew his dad, and Mr. Bedloe confessed that he worshipped his father, calling him the meanest man he ever knew. Mr. Drysdale was touched, saying his dad would have loved hearing him say that. Miss Jane, astonished, interrupted and asked if the chief's father would really have loved being called mean. She then realized that Mr. Bedloe had never actually met the old gentleman because he was already gone when she started working there. Mr. Drysdale decided to see if he could find a picture of him. Mr. Bedloe shared that his very first job was working as an office boy for Mr. Drysdale's father, and Mr. Drysdale remarked that he was surprised his father ever let him get away, concluding that Mr. Bedloe and his dad must have been two of a kind. Mr. Bedloe noted that it was 50 years ago when he was just a dumb kid with no sense of values, which led to him goofing up and getting fired. Mr. Drysdale asked what he did to get fired, and Mr. Bedloe explained that the old man was flogging a debtor, and he went to her defense. Miss Jane was horrified, asking if he meant the father was striking a woman, but Mr. Bedloe smiled and said that was the wonderful thing about Mr. Drysdale's father, as he never discriminated against anyone. Mr. Drysdale finally found the photograph, announcing that he knew he had a picture around. Mr. Bedloe looked at it with deep respect, calling him a true man and stating it was a privilege to have worked for him. He recalled being with him the day he foreclosed on the old soldier's home. Mr. Drysdale expressed his envy, And Mr. Bedloe described how his father had a pile of canes, trusses, and various entrapments as high as their desk, completely cleaning them out. Mr. Drysdale sighed, saying they were giants in those days. He then